Thinking Basketball Podcast. My name is Ben. Welcome to the 2026 Thinkies. This is our 8th annual Defensive Player of the Year Awards. Defensive Awards of the Year? Defensive Awards of the Best Defensive Players of the Year. Whatever it is, Rob Antle years ago coined it the Thinkies, and that has stuck. We go through and we talk about different categories of defense and, hand out. We still haven't had the trophies made. I mean, I don't know who I need to subcontract to get these trophies made, but we hand out the most important things like best hands and best point of attack defender. And of course, the gold standards of the awards now, I think, are, things like best perimeter helper and best paint protector, the granddaddy of them all. Cody, I know this is an important day for you. So first of all, happy Thinkies Day. And secondly, where would you like to start? Do you have a preamble? We have a lot to cover.
This is my favorite episode of the year, which is interesting because I think when I first started, this is the podcast that I felt the least prepared for. I'm like, this is the one I'm going to get the most flack for. It's impossible to know. And that, there's like the meme where you have the one person that doesn't know anything and they're like, I don't know anything. And in the middle, it would be like, I know everything. And on the other end, it's like, I know, I don't know anything. That's kind of how I feel about this. Like, the more I watch defense, the more I'm like, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts, but I have no answers. So I'm excited to see what the voting body has said about these players.
That's how I feel. And I do not know who won. We have sort of an envelope style surprise system this year. We also have a surprise award that I want to hand out. Now the question is, do you want to do it now, or do you want to do it at the end of the show? We can either do it now or we can do it later. I have come up with a new award. I came up with it today, but I have been thinking about it for like 4 months, and today I settled on the award. We can do it now, or we can do it at the end of the show. What's your preference?
Or would we do it? Actually, okay. I think the big award that we end with is going to be a little bit more anticlimactic. So maybe we actually end with it.
Okay, let's do that. Yes,
that's what I think. Yeah.
Let's end with it. We'll save it for later in the show. It is the hustle play of the year. That's what we're going to do. Yes, we've got 6 or 7 nominees that you can watch along on YouTube. We will describe them, and I'm actually interested, if you're not watching, which hustle play sounds more impressive based on how we describe them. But we've got some candidates for hustle play of the year. Yeah, you're deep in thought. Yeah.
So this is interesting because for the people, I had no idea about this. I don't know what the plays are. I have one play in mind. There's literally one play the entire season that immediately came to mind. So I'm excited to see if it made the final 7.
I just pulled from the things that I had seen over the course of the year. So it would be really interesting if you had a play that could top our nominee. It'll also be fun if it's one of the nominees that I came up with. So we'll cross that bridge later in the show. That's a surprise new addition to this year's Thinkies. But without further ado, would you like to jump in and find out who was voted by our esteemed body of voting experts on NBA defense? Would you like to jump in and find out who was voted to have the best motor in the NBA in 2026? Or would you like to, is there anything else you need to say philosophically? You want to just get to it?
We just got to get to this one.
Yeah, it's like the Oscars. You just go right, no monologue, just right into, what do they handle? Like best supporting actor when they start that show or something like that?
I think so. I think maybe at the end or somewhere in the middle, in my head, I'm like, I wonder which one of these are most important to me when I'm evaluating the overall defensive impact. But maybe we can save that question for later. But I think the motor is a solid starting point for this kind of award show.
I believe that the motor is the category. Whoa! I know who won. I just looked at the envelope. I believe the motor is the category that has the most players voted on. It has like 20 players got votes in the motor category. Would you, how do we do this? Do I say the 2026 Thinky goes to, and then we go from there? Do you have guesses or tell me your own opinion about something? How do we normally do this?
Wow, it would have been really helpful to listen back to last year. I almost think I thought we counted down. I thought maybe you started at 3.
Thank you.
And did like 3, 2, and then we could talk about one or talk about whoever we wanted to talk about.
Thank you. I'm having deja vu because we have this exact conversation every year. Okay, so the third place finisher, by the way, we had a 11-way tie for 4th place. My gosh, this is a lot of 4th place votes. Okay, for best motor in 2026, the 3rd place winner from the Detroit Pistons, Asar Thompson. Asar Thompson. The second place winner from the Boston Celtics, Ugo Gonzalez.
So you said the Boston Celtics, and I'm like, well, which Boston Celtic is going to be number 2? But Ugo's the one that got it. Okay, interesting.
And the winner of Best Motor, interestingly, with only one first place vote, but he was on the most number of ballots. The Best Motor going to, from the Boston Celtics, Derek White.
Oh, that's really interesting. So we have 2 Celtics players making the top. What is your reaction to those top 3?
I thought they were good. I mean, this is the challenge with Motor, and it really was something I was thinking about more this year, especially when you look at the Celtics and you look at someone like Ugo, who has maybe minute per minute the craziest motor of anyone we've seen in the NBA in a long time. He's just like a completely, you know what he's like? He's like the Tasmanian devil, like just had a Red Bull and cocaine bear experience or something. He's just out there running around like unbridled energy, bouncing off of everything all the time. But he only plays 14 minutes a game. Yep. And I think one thing we've learned over the years is that it's a lot easier to come off the bench, know you're only going to play 10 or 15 minutes, and just go kamikaze in those minutes. And every once in a while, he plays like 25 to 30 minutes in a game. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. And he can continue to have a high motor. But when you play 30 minutes a game, every game, then you're pacing yourself a little differently. So for me, I ended up valuing someone like White over Ugo in that equation. But that was top of mind for me, is trying to balance the fact that certain players are going to be able to push harder on the motor category if they only play like 10 or 15 minutes a night.
So that was the part that I actually found the most difficult in terms of voting for this particular award. I think that comes up, this conversation comes up for most categories, but for motor especially, right? The minutes load is really fascinating because you look at some of these guys like Ugo Gonzalez, Jordan Walsh, I know you didn't necessarily say him, Javonte Green, like all of those guys are sub 20 minutes per game, right? And then you get like Asar Thompson, he's in the mid-20s. Derek White plays almost 35 minutes a game. He plays like 34 minutes a game, and It looks like he's shot out of a cannon on every possession. And to me, it's funny because I'm saying all this. He was actually number 2 on my ballot. Number 1 didn't make our final count here. But being able to do all that with those 34 minutes, even if you say minute for minute, like you can watch the Celtics and you think, oh, Jordan Walsh, oh, Ugo Gonzalez, these guys actually move a little bit more, have a higher motor. The fact that White is keeping it up for like high starter minutes, it's mind-boggling, right? And you combine that with his like defensive awareness, like you can't watch the Celtics and not just be blown away by the amount of stuff that Derek White is able to do per game.
Okay, so there were, you mentioned the person who got number 1 on your ballot, and I wanted to talk to you about this because there are 2 French basketball players in the NBA who play center who are very good, and you voted for one in your motor ballot, and I voted for the other, and I'm pretty certain no other voters voted for these 2 players.
So who's the other Frenchman that you voted for?
Victor Wembanyama
for motor, you're saying?
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yes, because you to me, you're considering someone playing 28 minutes a game, flying around the court up and down constantly, just incredible. Like I think for a big, he has an incredibly high motor. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, I love that because I think this is like the Dwight Howard in the dunk contest situation, where you can watch somebody with incredible athleticism that can throw down all these dunks, but when you watch somebody who's 7'4" versus somebody that's like 6'1", flying around the court, it just looks more impressive, right? So in the dunk contest, the smaller guy looks more impressive, but the smaller guy that's on the perimeter that's flying around looks a little bit more impressive. That's a really interesting read. I left him off the list for me just because these other guys kind of stood out to me, maybe because of that particular bias that I'm talking about. But for my number 1, I had Moussa Diabate. And I wonder if some of it had to do with like offensive rebounding motor. And I was like, I wonder if that bleeds into it at all. But every time that I watch him, he's just one of these guys that's, kind of all over the place in terms of his offensive rebounding and defense, being able to play at the level, dropping back, screening like crazy. I actually think his screening ability is what stands out to me the most about it. So that's why he ended up being number 1 on my ballot.
Okay. So you're skewing for offense as well pretty heavily there.
Yeah. Like. I know, and I think that might be a little bit cheating. But again, when I think about screening, he feels like, and Derek White has this as well, where he doesn't have like the hard screens quite like Moussa Diabate would just because of the size, but he ghosts the screen with so much speed and so much verve that when you have the sprinting actions like that, and again, that can be an offensive thing as well. I think those sorts of things kind of bled into my analysis too.
Yeah, I tried to use offensive rebounding as almost more of a tiebreaker, if
Mm.
you will, right? So I didn't want to skew too heavily toward it, although most players, there is some consistency between their offensive motor and their defensive motor because that's how their engine revs when they're out on the court. Now, I'm not going to read all 20 something players here that got votes in this category, but we had some decent vote share for the next like 6 or 7 players: Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, Dyson Daniels, Ron Holland, Kaysen Wallace, Josh Hart, Chris Dunn, and Jordan Goodwin and Amen Thompson as well. Jordan Goodwin and Amen Thompson appearing on more ballots than those previous players that I just mentioned.
Okay. So that's what's so interesting about motor is there's so many ways that you can view it that I feel like we have a lot of people that put a lot of people on the ballot. And then at the end of the day, you get a pretty big vote share there. So what's the statue look like for the motor? Is it actually a motor? Is that where we're just going like
I think it should be an engine. Yeah. Don't you think?
Yeah. I think
it's
great.
There's a lot of different directions you could go here, right? I guess you could have like a battery. That is one way to do it. You could have a literal engine. You could have what other metaphors? Cody, you're into literature, like a lightning bolt. I don't know.
Not right now. That's my other job right now. The Thinkies Cody isn't into
your
literature
primary
at the moment.
jobs. Yeah. Okay. So Derek White, by the way, did win with a majority, well, quote unquote majority vote share, or however you want to think about that. He had 57% possible vote share in this category. Shall we move on?
Let's go on to another one.
Okay. The 2026 Thinky for hands. Let's do hands. How about that? Best hands in the NBA. And I think, philosophically, this was maybe the first year we've done this where in the past I'm thinking about how accurate are your hands, how fast are your hands, how strong are your hands, and what's it like being in your radius with the ball near you. And this year I was really noticing, if the ball's not exactly in front of you and someone throws an entry pass, right? So you're not arm's length from them. You're like 6 feet from them and they throw an entry pass and you get that big old mitt and you hit that ball when they're trying to bounce pass it into the post and you just steal it right out of the air. You got to have really good hands to do that. That's literally what the hands are doing. They're activating and going out like these little sentinels trying to target the basketball. So I was maybe more than ever thinking about like, God, certain guys, not in passing lanes per se, but when the ball is near them on a pass, their hands are really, really good. And similarly, blocking shots, which is something we've talked about in the past. I know last year we talked about it, but that was also front of mind for me with it's like, if you go up to try to challenge a shot from behind or from the side, again, we're really thinking about that hand-eye coordination of like, how do your hands come in and how accurately are they getting to the basketball? So to me, this was more than just a guy's trying to do a crossover and you take his cookies or something.
What I found difficult about this was separating it actually from motor. And I'm almost afraid looking at the list that I may have been biased towards guys that have a high motor. Because when you combine really good hands with an ability to fly around the court, you're going to deflect things a lot more. You're going to steal rebounds a little bit more. You're going to be able to chase down guys to strip the ball or something like that. But then there are some guys that are pretty low motor comparatively to who we've talked about. And they didn't make my list because I'm like, and honestly, maybe I'm wrong about it, but there are some guys that I'm like, if you literally just like had somebody dribble by them and they didn't move at all, like his octopus arms would be somebody that I would be even more terrified of. So maybe we'll talk about one of these guys that I'm talking about in just a second, but I think I found it difficult to separate those two particular skills.
You know how you said at the start of the show, the more you do it, the less you know, that bell curve meme and things like that. This is how I feel about all these awards, where they always bleed into the next category, no matter what we do. I was literally just talking to one of the voters before we started the show today about how whether this player's attributes that we were describing count as a perimeter helper because they're coming from the outside into the paint, or if they count as a paint protector because they're helping the team defend the paint. And I was like, every category touches another category. And even the ones I used to think were pure and isolated and siloed on their own, like motor, the second you're like, hands and motor are connected, I'm like, oh gosh, that's true. That's exactly what I just said a second ago about, not just being the 3 feet arm's length in front of you. Is that a normal length for an arm? 3 feet? That's how long an arm is, probably, right? 3 feet.
Is it? How long is like your chest cavity? Like
it's
from
the cavity. There's some breadth to the cavity, but I'm just saying.
There is some breadth to the cavity. Is
that
like 2 feet? It's definitely shorter than the arm span. I think we need to get the scientists on this one. I don't know what they're doing in space. Can we get Artemis 2 on this one? Is that what we can find on the moon? Figuring this one out.
Would you like to know who won Thinky for 2026 best hands?
Yeah, let's hear this top 3.
Okay, this top 3 is a juicy top 3. I will say that they got a majority of the vote share. Well, technically one has a plurality, but Dyson Daniels finishes number 3 in best hands. Asar Thompson is number 2. And do you have any guesses for who won the best hands thinky this year? We got almost all of the vote share, 90% of the possible vote share in a runaway landslide.
It's really funny because I'm going to guess somebody that I ultimately didn't have on my ballot. But is it Derek White?
It is not Derek White.
Oh, okay. So this is why I shouldn't feel so bad then. Great.
This is why I love this show. I love this show. The 2026 Thinkies for best hands in the NBA goes to Oklahoma City's.
Is it Cason Wallace?
Cason Wallace.
Yeah, there we are.
Cason Wallace. That thing he does, Cody, where you're trying to do a crossover and he just rips you. I have so many in my collection. I figured if you're a highlight maker, you could just run an endless loop of those, because one of the things I like to do as a sanity check for this exercise is I like to go look at a player's steals. And sometimes, if you've never done this, and maybe you don't realize this, sometimes when you pull up a guard's steals in the NBA, half of them will just be loose balls bouncing out into the middle of the paint. So they didn't really do anything. There's I've talked about this before, there's a baseline number of steals that you're going to get as a guard in the NBA just by being near the nail. That's what's going to happen, hanging out near the free throw line. And then there are guys that get steals because they're pressuring the basketball and they don't necessarily have great hands, but they're very disruptive and stuff is breaking. And then there are guys that get steals in passing lanes. And then there's Cason Wallace. And it doesn't matter like what day it is. You just pull up his steals and it's like, oh, he's guarding someone and they try to do a crossover. And he just took the ball right out of his hand and went the other way for a layup. And then, okay, let's look at the next one. It's at half court and the guy's trying to do a crossover and he took the ball right out of his hand. It's kind of amazing how many of those steals he had. So I don't know if we're over indexing on that as voters and it's just ingrained in our mind, but he has incredible hands, and that one move alone possibly won him this award this year in a landslide.
I think one of the great, I don't know, difficulty is the word I want to use. It was a pleasure to do it for sure, but one of the great exercises I'll say in preparing for this was differentiating between the Oklahoma City defenders, right?
Yes.
Because there's no doubt that you watch the team and you're like, wow, I could vote for all of them in a lot of different categories. But then when you really get down to it and you have the ballot in front, and it's like, all right, does this guy actually have better hands than this guy? This guy have better hands than this guy. And like you said, Cason Wallace is very good at that. And when you talk about hands, there's like a diversity of ways that you can use your hands. And there's something about his combination of strength where once he gets his hand on you, it's very Kawhi-like, where once upon a time, and Kawhi still has this, but he doesn't have like the motor. This is the guy I was talking about, where maybe if he had a higher motor, he'd be higher up on my list, but he just isn't able to fly around like somebody like Cason Wallace is right now. But when Cason Wallace gets his hand on the ball, like you catch it and you land and he meets you there and grabs it, it's over. Like it's either going to be a jump ball or it's going to be a steal. And not only that, but he's active enough where he's picking off some of these sorts of things. Like he has somebody backing him down. He can jump in front of somebody, front him immediately, get a steal that way. So he has really strong hands in a lot of different ways. And I think that's really what stood out to me compared to the other Oklahoma City guys.
Well, the other Oklahoma City guy finished fourth. That's Alex Caruso. And these guys had some decent vote share. Alex Caruso, Derek White, Keon Ellis, and Kawhi. I wasn't sure what to do with Kawhi Leonard because of exactly what you just said. Like the hands are still very good, but I feel like that is his superpower defensively. I feel like that is, along with his strength and size at this point in his career, his best defensive attribute. But wasn't exactly sure how to handle that. And Chris Dunn as well. Chris Dunn did well. Yeah.
And you said Dyson Daniels was number 3 in this voting?
Yes,
correct?
Dyson Daniels was number 3. That is correct.
So I find this to be interesting because you talk about the steals numbers and you look at some of the box score stuff. And if I'm not mistaken, I actually think some of his numbers are pretty significantly down from last year. Like last year, he had some ridiculous steals per game numbers and things like that. But maybe there was a bit of a dip from what we saw last year. Obviously, in the counting stats there are. But yeah, I still see him as being a tremendously, like, I think out of all of the things that Dyson Daniels brings to the table, I think his hands are probably his best attribute, where he's able to use his length to get around and strip guys like that. So I'm glad to see that he's still being honored, even though the actual counting stats are down a little bit more.
Yeah, I like his hands. I think they're dangerous. You know, I definitely think they're dangerous. But this is why I love this exercise and getting different opinions and things like that, because there's so many different ways that you can go with some of these top players and some of these skills. And hands is one of those categories where, as I was going through it, Cody, I'm just like, oh, this is kind of impossible. You know, you go from one guy, you're like, this guy has great hands. And you go to the next guy and you're like, yes, he also has similar similar but different. So,
Yeah.
you know, the only way I really feel like I would be personally really comfortable at the end of the day is doing the kind of defensive deep dives that I do on film. But you can't really do that realistically with 50 or 75 defensive or with hands. Like, you don't even necessarily have to be a good defender. You could argue you could have to do it for 400 players for hands. So hands is one that I think is impossible. And you know, I think I like the outcome. This makes sense to me. Case and Wallace winning the Thinky, going away this year.
Can I shout out a guy that was very high on both the ballots so far for me, but I don't see him coming up anymore, and I just want to give him a good old shout for that fan base.
Is it Jordan Goodwin?
It is Jordan Goodwin.
That's right, baby. We're locked in today. Let's go,
dude. Jordan Goodwin is such a menace, and it's if you turn on any Phoenix Suns game, like, this is a guy that's just like stealing defensive rebounds or causing like, you'll inbound the ball to somebody like a foot outside and he just appears and he smacks it out and hits somebody. I think that just happened in a recent game here. He's just flying around all over the place, like 96 feet worth of defense. Yep. And even if you get ahead of him, he's hunting you down. Like, he's going to chase you down and be like, I'm just going to start whapping at this thing like this. And I know he's been in the league for a couple of years now. Maybe he's been buried to me for just how great he is, but he really stood out to me whenever I tuned into the Suns. And I think he's a really big part of just kind of like the Energizer Bunny defensive thing that they're able to do this year. So I just want to give Jordan Goodwin a shout out before he probably doesn't come up for the rest of the podcast.
That's such a great call on your part, because these are the two categories where he appeared on multiple ballots. His vote share is just on the outside of what I've listed off so far. And again, he comes to mind for me as well here. I think he was on both of my ballots for both motor and hands, but when you're lower on the ballot, you don't get as much vote share. That's how it works. Yeah, that's how math works, Cody.
All right, so let's I think these are two of the like more difficult to actually put together a list for. Not saying that the next ones aren't going to be difficult, but it's a little bit more difficult to describe exactly what we're seeing that makes us really excited. Let's move on to some more of these heavy hitters, Ben.
Okay, let's do point of attack defender. How about that? Since I just clicked the button that revealed the winner. Oh boy. Oh my goodness. These results are absolutely incredible. In third place for the 2026 Thinky for best point of attack defender, it's from the Oklahoma City Thunder, Alex Caruso. Yes, Alex Caruso. In second place for best point of attack defender from the Oklahoma City Thunder, it is Luguentz Dort.
Okay.
Making an appearance. He is 53% of the vote share here, and just edging him out was 58% of the vote share. And the winner of the 2026 Thinky, Cody, for best point of attack defender from the Detroit Pistons is Asar Thompson.
So I purposefully didn't talk about Thompson at all after winning the last Thinkies, because I was like, I have a feeling that we're going to have a couple more opportunities to talk about this guy.
What you said? I didn't talk about him at all after winning the last Thinkies.
Didn't he win the best hands?
Okay,
no, he was second. He was second. He was second.
Yes. You just meant the last award.
Yes,
I
sorry.
thought you meant like last year's show. I was like, what kind of 4D chess is Cody getting into with this point he's about to bring up?
The thing with Asar Thompson is he is so quick and athletic at his size that I think it makes him like almost built in a lab to be a destructive point of attack defender, because he's the type of guy that he's quick enough that he can stay with people. If you blow by him, right, he's got the arm length in the hands, like we just saw. He's number 2 in the Thinkies for that. He can come right back behind you and strip it or meet you at the top because he's incredibly athletic and vertical. Or sometimes he's just quick enough where he's going to go back and beat you to your spot. He's like, oh, you beat me? That's okay. I'll just, vort my way right into the middle here, and it's just over. I beat you once again. So there's something almost magical about the way that this guy is able to just like be a cyborg and move around the court in the way he does. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's like a video game broke, and he doesn't have the physics of like having to change directions at any point.
This was a really hard category for me. Mostly, I first of all couldn't even figure out what to do with the OKC guys. Let me check my ballot and what the heck did I ended up deciding Alex Caruso defends the point of attack the best out of the OKC guys. And it's hard. You turn on the game, and right now it is a team effort to take away the point of attack in the NBA. I think we've talked about this before. 30 or 40 years ago, it might be a lot of isolation or post defense. You're playing with your back to the basket more. Now it's a lot of screen navigation, but then also you're having to navigate a screen off the ball as your guy comes up to get a handoff, that screen handoff action that has become so popular around the league, those zooms. And so these are all components of how you chip away at how a team starts a possession and tries to get an advantage. And so it's team positioning, it's understanding screen navigation, it's understanding the coverage, it's when do you go under, when do you go over, how do you stay connected, but also how big are you, how strong are you? You don't want to get a mismatch, you don't want to get trucked into the paint, you need good feet. As you said, you need good hands to be disruptive. There's just so many different elements to it, while also not necessarily feeling like you're on an island. It's not like an individual endeavor anymore. And so I turn on OKC and I'm just like, well, God, how did Alex Caruso make that play? That's insane. Maybe that's why he ends up number 1 in my book. But then Cason Wallace is going to have different strengths when he's playing people. And Lou Dort is just, I wonder how many offensive fouls a game he draws getting around screens and getting chipped by the hip and then falling over. So that's just one team. And I think the really cool thing about being able to, I'm just seeing the results for the first time. Most of the same players appeared on these ballots. We only had about 11, 12, 13 players total. A couple were on like stray ballots here and there. But if I continue reading, Amen Thompson, Asar's brother, is 4th with 28% of the vote share. Jaden McDaniels was next. He was on a lot of ballots. It was a really interesting one for me. I think I ended up having him on my ballot somewhere as well. Stephon Castle showed up. Aforementioned Cason Wallace, Chris Dunn, Davion Mitchell. There's a name we haven't mentioned. Jalen Suggs, Dyson Daniels, Derek White. So, yeah.
So, okay, you said, talking about the Oklahoma City guys, that you had Caruso like number 1 out of them. Did you have him number 1 overall on your point of attack ballot for this particular one, or did you have someone else above him?
I had him number 1 and Asar number 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really interesting because I also had Alex Caruso number 1 on my overall ballot here.
Wow. Just to be clear, by the way, for the OKC guys, because I think I misread it out of order. Amen's 4th, McDaniels is 5th, and Cason Wallace technically is 6th with the total vote share. So sorry, keep going.
What, and again, this might be something that's a little bit cheating. Like you said, the category is going to be so hard and your mind biases towards particular plays. And you're like, oh, this is really good. Maybe that factors into this. But I'm thinking of plays where like Alex Caruso like dodges some kind of a screen. He's able to get by somebody. He's screened. And then I'm thinking about a Celtics play where he like switches and then he stays in kind of gaps for a second and he waits to pounce. And then they kick it and he all of a sudden just like jumps over to the next guy. So there's more of like a mind game, positional awareness thing, and he's able to blend in his perimeter helping abilities with his abilities to also just like appear and be in front of guys. And like I said, the pick dodging for me really stands out with this because he's one of these guys that can get his hand around a screen, around a handoff or something like that and steal it. So Alex Caruso is, again, one of these guys that's just kind of a machine on defense, and it basically doesn't make sense to watch him play defense.
But this is getting to my point about how this art has changed for teams and individuals over the years, even over the last few years since we've been doing this show, because there's so much switching now, right? And so you have to be on the same page. You have to communicate. You have to know the coverage. All these little elements, these little king areas are part of point of attack. And then you can switch, and it's like, well, to your point of your example, did you switch away from point of attack, or are you still there because you're trying to get in the gap and then also recover to the where the ball is going next to try to keep the ball out of the paint? That's part of the same action in a sense. So again, the lines are blurring and all these categories are fudging together, and we're only halfway through.
Now, for my money, and maybe this is more of like a 90s aughts. I don't know if I've ever said aughts out loud, but I'm saying it now. 90s or aughts part of the analysis. But for my money, if I'm thinking about one-on-one isolation, there's not going to be any screening action. I just need my one guy to defend this guy with the ball, and I want him to do it across like a wide range of guys. I think Lou Dort would be my number one, because it just feels like when he's on a guy and there's not really anything going on, it's like I just have to beat Lou Dort. To me, he seems like the strongest defender in that sort of case. So I actually thought that like Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso are better at like handling some of these actions, are better at getting around screens and stuff like that. But I just really was impressed by his stalwartness. I don't know if that's a word, his being a brick, you know what house, just like stopping big bodies coming down. And I was just impressed with all of that. I remember there's like a Brandon Ingram game recently where he just put him in hell. Like it was a nightmare for him. And I remember so many different plays like that where it's like individually he's doing extremely well on this one guy. But I think when you factor in all those other things, that's when I get guys like Alex Caruso ahead of him.
Okay, so then you have this other element where Brandon Ingram, they're playing the San Antonio Spurs a few months ago. I don't know how I remember this. I must have had some ginseng or something today. Dylan Harper is assigned to defend him. Okay.
Yep.
Brandon Ingram cannot catch the ball for like 4 straight possessions because Dylan Harper is the greatest player of all time. Okay. He like denies, goes through the screen. He's just literally like glued to his hip no matter where he goes, and they can't get him the ball. So again, this is away from the ball, but is that quote unquote point of attack if the offense is literally trying to initiate that to start the point of attack? I would argue that it probably is, but these are not only places where the lines blur, but I think getting to how much more diverse the skill set is now in this category. Like and from a data standpoint, we've seen someone like Alex Caruso and maybe even someone like Asar Thompson this year have incredible, quote unquote, advanced impact metrics on defense. So we're looking at something like what's the team like when they're on the court versus off the court, but also tracking data. You know, dunks and threes, EPM, estimated plus minus, is trying to fold this stuff into the fray. And we're going like, okay, so who's the best defender in the league? It's Victor Wembanyama. He's on his own planet. Who's next? Asar Thompson? What? Alex Caruso? What? How do they have such impact from the perimeter? And I think it's these areas where it's like the diversity of their skill set is becoming more and more robust. It's more critical to be really skilled in all these different areas versus just slap the floor, like you said. I think of Amen Thompson as well. Amen Thompson, athletically, much like his brother, has advantages that you can build in a lab that no one else has. And we've seen the Rockets just sick him like a Doberman on someone and just say, follow you around the court. But as amazing as that is to watch, when I go to vote for a category like this, I'm like, yeah, but Amen will just be staring at that dude while someone gets a layup because he will skirt his help responsibility to over focus on the assignment that he has. And how do you balance all this? Because ultimately you want to be good in all these areas. And I think that's where someone like Caruso really shines.
I don't think he falls asleep like quite to that extent, but there's definitely some off-ball concerns that I see once in a while. But I felt the same way about Stephon Castle, who I was obviously extremely high on. I'm very excited about him. But when I really started stacking him up next to these guys, it's the same sort of thing. You sick him on a guy like a Doberman. It's like, this is incredible stuff. Like in 2005, you win Defensive Player of the Year. But now there's all these other things that you're juggling in your head. That's just so much more than just, can I keep my guy in front of me? Right. And I'm not even saying he's like bad compared to like everyone else in the league. But when you have the guys like Alex Caruso out there, it does stand out a little bit more.
I also wasn't sure what to do with someone like Harper or the San Antonio guys because they're playing slightly differently because Wemby's behind them. And that's great. That's great from a team building standpoint. It's great from when we evaluate the playoffs and we do our playoff preview next week. This is like a really important thing. But when we try to just have an even playing field and say like, okay, so what would others defend? Like, what would the Thompson twins look like if they could? Matisse Thybulle would love to play next to Wemby because he might just erase all of his crazy mistakes. Where every time I check in on Portland, I'm like, okay, so Matisse is he's still running around behind people trying to make crazy. He's still gambling on every human possession humanly possible. But yeah, all of this was really just my way of smuggling in Dylan Harper because I'm concerned as Dylan Harper becomes an all-star level offensive player, we won't get this kind of defensive motor in it because he's so good at getting into the ball. But that also, this is like we're getting into the rich categories where my favorite thing about seeing these ballots was seeing how many names came up over and over again. But as you notice, it's not only a couple names. It's like there's a lot of guys to choose from here that I think you could argue. So who did we say won this? I can't even remember who won this anymore. 2026.
Asar Thompson.
Thinking. Yes, thank you.
Was the winner for this one.
Asar Thompson just edging out Lou Dort. Just edging out Lou Dort for the 2026 Thinky for best point of attack defender.
Let me backtrack a little bit here. I should have commented on it when you actually said it. But off the top of your head, you say the Dylan Harper play where he's on Ingram, the ball denial. So if we just say ball denial in general, where would you toss that into one of these categories? Like, is there a way that you can factor ball denial in really well? Because it doesn't necessarily seem like point of attack because you're just stopping the point of attack from happening. But maybe that is also the case for doing that. Or is that like a versatile defender? I don't know, Ben.
Well, the same play can touch multiple categories, right? You can have a great point of attack play and also have great hands on the play, right? And a great motor. You could be an incredible point of attack display of defense with a high motor and with high hands. So you can touch multiple categories by looking at a singular player or singular set. I try to ask the questions that you just ask every year, Cody. And I say, okay, if it's critical now, if more teams are pressuring full court and as a defensive strategy, they say, we're going to not let you make the entry pass to the elbow to run your elbow set. We're not going to let you get Brandon Ingram or Luka Doncic or Nikola Jokic the touch, right? That was the Thunder. That's what they ultimately landed on in the playoffs last year. We're going to throw a small on you. And the internet commenters be damned. We're just going to front you. We're not going to let you get to your spot. That's our goal. So to me, if that's what the offense is trying to do as their initiating point, that is point of attack defense. But I do try to ask myself those questions every year. What are the common things we see around the league? What are the responsibilities coaches are asking of defenders? It's one of the reasons why I'm so into studying that or talking to coaches and understanding what they're asking and teaching, because that's, I think, how we update the categories over the years. We say, like, all right, where does that fall? And sometimes it's a gray area. I don't know.
Less important question here. We didn't talk about the trophy for the hands. I think we agreed years ago that it's a gauntlet, right?
Yeah, that's the easiest one.
Yeah. That's the Gary Payton.
It's a medieval style gauntlet, yes, with an insignia on it of a basketball.
What about the point of attack defender? What's our trophy look like for this?
Okay, so my initial thought is something to do with a spear, right? Because it's the tip of the spear. But what would the counter to that be? Would it be a shield?
Yeah,
shield, right?
Would it be like a forearm with a shield on it?
Well, that's right. How do you carry your shields?
Well, I don't know.
I don't bring a shield
like a breastplate. Because in the NBA, like you can't. That's like an arm bar. People might call that a foul, but if it's like a breastplate, we're talking like the Aegis from Athena, right? Like you're standing here like this, like absorbing the contact. So maybe it should be a breastplate over a shield.
I just figured you would go to school with a shield as a safety measure. That seems like something that you would have to do in a high school. One
of those things where you just have it and you like slit it open so you just see my eyes. Like they don't even see my mouth talking. I'm just disembodied voice.
That's what I'm saying. It can't be like armor. It can't be a suit of armor or like chainmail. That doesn't work.
I mean, it could be Gandalf like with the staff down, like you shall not pass. But if it's just a staff, no one thinks defense immediately with that.
That's solid. I like that where you're going with that.
Okay.
Gandalf.
So maybe it's literally Gandalf holding a spear down like this, not a spear, staff. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Let's do the next category is the most versatile defender. And I feel like I was having an existential crisis when I was doing most versatile defender, because I thought, years ago, I was always picking bigs who can get in multiple coverages and like just how valuable that was. And then I realized here in 2026, my brain just could not get away from players who could guard like multiple positions across the spectrum, take different assignments. This goes back to point of attack, maybe being more valuable, and have some sensibility of screening coverage. Like if you need to guard a big, so we had this in the Jaylen Brown video for members, patreon.com/thinking basketball, or just on YouTube if you only want the videos and none of the other fun bells and whistles from the Thinking Basketball universe, whatever they are. Jaylen Brown is guarding a big on a possession, and he can do that really well, by the way. Tatum as well. We haven't mentioned this as an aside. I personally this year didn't really consider the guys who played like 15 to 30 games. If you just didn't play that much, Jalen Williams, J-Dub, and things like that. Jason Tatum is another one. So for this category, I was like, Jason Tatum, oh my God, right? He stands out, but he's only played 15 games. So I'm not going to go that far down the games played ladder. So Jaylen Brown, he's guarding a center, and he can do that well. But then you put him in the screening action. And I don't really love how versatile he is as a defender in the screening action, because basically what he wants to do is switch, which isn't the end of the world from a value standpoint. But, the other team might then take their center who you're guarding and create a mismatch or something like that. So it's just, I found myself stuck between a rock and a hard place where I'm like, I want guys who can guard multiple positions, who are big bodies, who don't create mismatches. But I also want guys who, when we talk about the responsibilities that go with some of these different things, aren't just going to be like, yeah, he's a terrible screen. Like, I want someone who adds a little punch or a little shot blocking or something like that.
Yeah, I think philosophically, this one is the most challenging, where I feel like we need to sit down with like a council, and it would be really fun to just like get an idea of where everyone's coming from. Because what I came up with, I think I skewed towards some bigger bodies out there, right? And I could be convinced that like, oh, maybe you should actually have some smaller guys that can be in a lot more of these actions. Like my number one, I actually I went out there, right? I went with a gamble with my number one, because I have a defense for what I want to talk about here. But I kind of want to get into the nitty gritty of some of these guys to see what you really think about their ability to be versatile in a bunch of different schemes.
Who was your number one?
I had Victor Wembanyama as number one.
Okay. Victor, you are not the only one who thought this way. Yeah. Okay. And I guess it just goes back to my motor thing, like there's just how many different ways can you give credit to these great defenders? I think sometimes you just think, oh, he's just roaming the paint and that's all he does. But the idea behind Vic, which was articulated by multiple people to me, is that you're never really in a situation as an offense where you're excited to see him. He can play any different coverage. The challenge I had is, okay, you're not going to be able to go into a playoff series and like take Vic and use a matchup advantage unless he roams, right? If you put him on a shooter and he roams, that's ideal because of his skill set. But you're never going to be in a defensive situation where you're like, hey, can you chase Steph Curry around and use that as a way to like initiate our defense? Whereas the guys I was trying to think of, they do literally take different assignments and excel in those different assignments. And they're also just good defenders in other ways. And when I did that, I ran out of defenders real fast, which is why I was like, maybe Jason Tatum. So it just tells you how valuable that archetype potentially is. I don't want to step on any analytics folks' toes right now. Yeah.
So let's rewind to a conversation actually about offense that we had earlier in the season, right? And one of those conversations we had, it actually started with the pregame disagreement, with an off-mic disagreement philosophically between us before we recorded. But I initially, the conversation was going to be something like, who's the best pick and roll offensive player in the league? And your point was basically like, well, if you have somebody like Jokic, why would you have him run a bunch of pick and rolls? Like, you just want to have the guy that's going to be the best offensive player. And I feel the same way about this, where you're like, oh, Victor Wembanyama is not going to be chasing Steph Curry. I'm like, why would you have him do that? Like what he does defensively out there in being like truly like more than we've ever seen, a defense unto himself, where you can really do whatever you want with the other four positions. Like you can cover a bunch of different ground. To me, that felt like the most sort of versatility, where it's like, all right, you have this thing. Now we just have a playground. We can do whatever it is that we want. And sure, he's not going to chase Steph Curry around, but he's just going to make it so that the paint and everything inside like 15 feet is impossible to get to. So it's almost like a team-wide versatility as opposed to him himself being able to do a bunch of versatile things on defense.
Okay, so this is interesting. So you wouldn't say the same thing about Rudy Gobert, though. Rudy Gobert is great at this thing. Therefore, why he frees up other stuff on the team, and why would you have him chase Luka Doncic around screens all game? You wouldn't say that, right?
Because what we've seen is Gobert has some weaknesses defensively that can be attacked, right? Like there are places where it's like, oh crap, this offensive system is not going to be good for Gobert. But as far as I'm concerned, from what we've seen, I don't think that offensive system in 2026 exists right now. That's why, obviously, health-wise, we're, sitting here hoping that Wembanyama is going to come back and be super healthy for the playoffs. But I really want to see the playoffs because I have to see what some of these offenses are going to cook up, because then maybe I can reboot some of my thinking here. But so far, there just isn't a counter to what he does defensively.
This is what I'm saying about how I think in the past I indexed more on this coverage versatility that you're talking about. And now, for whatever reason, maybe because I don't want Wemby first in all my categories, I sort of have, I'm not going to say moved away from that, but I can tell you, like, for me, I voted for OG Anunoby because OG Anunoby, to me, besides being a great defender and maybe just like an all-star level player at this point, because he's really, really good, he will take on assignments on nights where he guards, your pick and roll, Jamal Murray, point of attack, ball handling creator who's a guard. And then he'll go guard a big. And it's like, he's really, really strong, but he's also really, really good at mucking up what you want to do on offense and getting around screens. Now, it's not perfect because there's some nights where Mikal Bridges gets the assignment for the ball handler because he's more suited for that than OG. But OG is also one of these guys that I think in a lot of different coverages does well. But I love, I don't really have a philosophical horse in this race because, as I said, for years, I used to really index on the different coverages a player could play. And let's go back to the Steph Curry thought experiment, Cody. If you are in a playoff series with Victor Wembanyama and you're guarding Steph Curry, one thing you could do, which may mathematically be the best thing in general to do, is try to keep Wemby near the basket the way the Lakers kept Anthony Davis near the basket in 2023. You ask everybody, the other four defenders, to try to push Steph inside the line whenever possible, and you live with everything else. You live with twos, short mid-range, other people taking threes, whatever. That's one possibility. I think the other possibility that you're getting at, and why you and other people thought this way on the voting, is that you bring Wemby's so good, you just bring him out to Steph Curry's level, and you dare Steph Curry to shoot over his 8-foot wingspan. And when Wemby has his back foot on the free throw line and Steph's on the logo, it doesn't even make sense when you say it, but this is almost how it works in real life. Wemby will have his foot on the free throw line, Curry will try a logo three, and Wemby will block the logo three. And that's something that these other bigs cannot do. So it's not merely just coverage versatility. I can switch, I can drop, I can come to the level, I can hedge, whatever. Wemby's so good, you almost don't need to hedge. It's the entire scheme proof versatility that you're talking about. So did I read the winners of this category yet?
No, you didn't. But
my gosh,
OG Anunoby was, I think he was fourth on my ballot for many of the reasons that you're talking about. He's just enormous, right? You can literally just have him guarding like fives about as well as most other fives. Maybe he doesn't have the foot speed. I think that's more, if I had a rubric, I dinged him a little bit there where he's going to get blown by a little bit more. I never thought he was the quickest laterally. But once you get to a certain height, like there's just not a lot of guys that are going to be like, oh, great, I have OG Anunoby here. I'm sure that we're going to be able to pick on him with our defensive scheme here. So just one of the like most buttoned up defensive players we have in the league. That's a good shout for him.
The last thing I will say here is that strength is something that the league seems to be indexing on more and more. I don't know if they're ever going to address or revert back to normal officiating when it comes to push-offs and shoulders and off-arm contact. We have one in the video today that's one of my favorite plays from the month where Paul Reed, B-ball Paul, it's the Thinkies. We should just say Paul Reed's name. Don't you think?
Yeah, sure.
We made it this far without saying Paul Reed.
Yeah.
B-ball Paul Reed is driving on the baseline against Chet Holmgren and absolutely trucks Chet Holmgren with the off arm that just shoves him right out of the way. When they showed the replay, even Austin Rivers was like, they just started laughing. They was like, that was a nice push off there. It wasn't a no call, Cody. It was not a no call. It was a defensive foul on Chet Holmgren. just forgetting absolutely. Like, if you were an NFL running back, if you were Walter Payton, you would have been very proud of this stiff arm move. So I don't know. All I'm saying is that the way this is going, strength is becoming more and more important. And I think that's why I'm gravitating toward OG Anunoby as a player in general, because you turn these games on and it's trucking. And then you get to the fifth night and they play the Knicks and you're like, that guy just bounced off OG and fumbled the ball. Yeah. So you want to hear the winner?
Yeah, I'm interested to see where pocket OG Aaron Gordon appears, if he's somebody that ends up high on somebody's ballot, because he is like that to a lesser degree. He basically does the OG Anunoby thing, but to me, I just see OG as being higher than that.
Aaron Gordon is on no one's Thinkies ballots for 2026, and I imagine it's because he played 35 games this year.
I guess that's a fair point.
Here we go. 2026 most versatile defender in this is close. This is very, very close. We do have someone getting more than 50% of the vote share. In the past, we've had awards where players haven't won over 50% of the vote share. There's a bunch of players that are on multiple ballots. Asar Thompson, Amen Thompson. In sixth place, Derek White has a healthy chunk of vote share. Fifth place, I know I'm breaking protocol, but this is very close, so I have to. Fifth place, most versatile defender, Victor Wembanyama.
He did make it.
Okay. Fourth place, just ahead of him in vote share, almost exactly the same, Alex Caruso. And in third place, just ahead of him in vote, we're talking about 1% vote share difference, OG Anunoby. And in second place, 1% vote share difference, Draymond Green. Those four players, Wemby, Caruso, OG, and Draymond Green, to the philosophical conversation we just had, Cody didn't even know the results and we had it. They went 2 through 5.
That's unbelievable. I love that. And I had Draymond Green number 2 on my ballot. I feel pretty solid about this. So I want to jump in. Let's talk about Draymond Green for a second. I don't know if you had him high up on your ballot, but there's something when I'm watching him where it's not 2016, Ben. It's not 2017. He's not flying around and making the crazy plays at the rim. He's not, picking up guys like Damian Lillard at half court and being the point of attack guy there. But man, Ben, let me tell you, the level of communication he brings, his awareness and being able to rotate exactly where he needs to be with his big body and his long arms and his strength there, the mind that he still has, it doesn't matter that he's lost whatever percentage of his physical abilities. I just want that dude on my defensive team. And if I have him, I know I'm going to be really buttoned up, right? And I think to me, that's a separator between him and guys like OG Anunoby is I thought the communication and I thought the rotational stuff off ball just stood out to me more. And I think that is what really drew me to him. Even though I had Wembanyama first, like that sort of stuff, I'm like, that's the kind of guy that if I just have a bunch of you on the team, I'm going to feel really good about it.
He's lost a step. He's finally kind of had a quote unquote severe decline relative to where you can see it. He's not as fast. He doesn't move quite as well. He's still a very good defender. And he still has, it's just like LeBron. You take these superpowers and you bring them back down a little and you're like, oh, you're still better than most people at almost everything. Like you said, the communication, but the quickness, the agility, and that blend that he's had really since he stormed the league 12 years ago of quickness, anticipation, strength, and length, right? He's only about 6'6", but he plays like he's 7'1" because of the long arms and because of his brain. And yes, he is finally, I think, if you look at something like EPM, he finally drops off after years and years of being near the top of the league, but he's still a good defender.
Who's number 1?
Do you have a guess? Who's number 1? I figured the reason I wanted to read all those other guys getting vote shares is to see if you could figure out who the most versatile defender is in 2026.
So you did not say 2 guys that were on my ballot. I don't want it to be one of them because I think he's a little overrated in this department, even though I had him like number 6 on my ballot. So I'm going to go with the other guy. Is it Scotty Barnes?
Scotty Barnes is the winner of the 2026 most versatile defender. He gets the Thinky. Who's the guy you think's a little overrated?
Bam Adebayo.
Bam Adebayo.
Even though he was number 6, I slotted him there at the end there. I just didn't want him to be number 1. I don't know if that's petty, but it's just
you might be the only one with Bam Adebayo.
Wow.
On your ballot.
Look at me, the one that's calling him underrated. Actually, I think he's underrated defensively, Ben. Bam doesn't get enough love around these nerdy podcasts.
Shall we go to paint protector or perimeter helper? What do you want to finish with?
Do you want to talk about Scotty Barnes at all?
Well, Scotty Barnes is did he show up in motor? I mean, he's a guy that moves around a lot. He barely got any coverage in voter. Man, yeah, I think he fits everything we were saying earlier about the OG archetype. He can guard multiple positions. He can guard point of attack. He can guard off ball. He's pretty good in different coverages. So I assume that's why the voters awarded him.
I think there's a I hear podcasters say things like the Raptors aren't fun to watch. And I just want to be here. I want to stand here like I did like week 4 of the NBA season and say that Scotty Barnes is a top 5 NBA player to watch. He's just the passing, which I know we're just the Thinkies. We're not talking about that right now. But what he brings defensively, across the court, he's always flying around. He's huge. He guards all kinds of positions. I think Scotty Barnes is just a pleasure to watch, and people need to enjoy the Raptors more than they do.
He has a play in a video that we have coming up soon at some point where he sort of spots what the Celtics are trying to do on an out of bounds play. Okay. And basically has this like chess match with Joe Mazzulla where he reads the play and pre-switches it. And then in the middle of the play, switches back after pre-switching it to really mess with what the Celtics are trying to do. And I think relative to, like you said, the way he's talked about the kind of attention he gets, that is almost lost in the shuffle a little bit, that he's, to me, very strong, very physically impressive, but he's kind of graduated up the chess level of basketball where he's communicating, he's smart, he sees things. And I love watching guys potentially evolve into that defensive quarterback role. We just talked about it with Draymond Green, and I would not be surprised if Scotty Barnes could access that level at some point very soon in his career.
Yeah. And another Raptor great from the past, but I want to shout somebody out here because, I think they might be having a down year because of injuries and things like that. But Pascal Siakam, I think he didn't make my ballot, but I think any other year he would have. And I think he's maybe the most underrated player in this particular category. But I thought about Pascal Siakam a lot, and I couldn't quite do it this year.
That's amazing. Pascal Siakam did show up on a ballot along with Colin Maurice-Boyle. So a lot of Toronto. Did I even say his name right? I've just been calling him CMB for like 6 straight months, and then it was one of those moments. Yeah, CMB. Yeah,
who's CMB?
Let's go to the next.
Oh, you're not talking about Siakam. I'm like, how is this? You're talking about the Raptor rookie.
Giving love to Toronto.
He's got some incredible hands for a rookie. He probably got a rookie tax from me, but every time I check in, it's like that guy's hands are everywhere. So he's going to be on the Thinkies in a future year.
Canadians love basketball, man.
They do. Oh.
Yeah. Let's do paint protector next.
Ooh,
let's mix it up.
Twist.
Let's mix it up. Yes, plot twist, paint protector, because I think we all know who's going to win the paint protector. It's a little ridiculous.
Does anyone not have him number 1?
He is a unanimous number 1.
Okay, I was going to say.
Yeah. And not many people got votes in the paint protector category. It was dominated by 3 players. Yep. In third place, I just looked at the ballot here. I don't know these results until we do this live. Third place for 2026 Thinkies paint protector goes to Chet Holmgren.
Just third. Okay.
Third. Yes. Just behind Rudy Gobert.
Okay.
I personally prefer Chet here. I think to yes. What are you going to say? Do you disagree?
This is really funny. In my head, when I was driving home, I was thinking about who my ballot was, and it's actually flipped from what I'm seeing right now. So I'm wondering how I actually voted when I sent it your way.
This guy.
I'm pulling up my actual ballot. Right. Oh, okay. No, I voted how I wanted to. Okay, good.
Yep, who'd you vote for?
I had Chet number 2.
Okay, so other people disagree with us, but it's very close.
You had Chet number 2 as well?
I had Chet number 2 as well. Yeah, I had Chet number 2 as well. Now, a couple players we just talked about. If you look at our rim calculation metrics that we like to look at, we have not only like on thinkingbasketball.net, what happens when players shoot shots when they're the nearest defender within 6 feet of the hoop. But we also have what we've talked about so many times in prior series where you can look at what happens when the player's on the court versus what happened when players off the court. Bam Adebayo traditionally struggles in this area. He does not give you a lot of paint protecting juice relative to his reputation. We just talked about Scotty Barnes. Scotty Barnes has a relatively small footprint in that area, especially compared to some of these big kahunas. We've talked about Dikembe Mutombo sort of setting the historical precedent. We've talked about Victor Wembanyama challenging that precedent on just the most insane type of stats you could ever imagine. Chet Holmgren. Can we talk about Chet Holmgren here?
Please, let's talk about Chet.
Okay. Chet, when you look at the rim protection numbers, is quite good. But also, like, Chet's doing that thing where he's on the really, really great defense, and then they're like still getting 3, 4, 5 points better when he's in the game. So it's not Wemby, but it's still impressive. And I just think with his reads and his length and his motor to some degree, there's just a lot of things that his versatility, I kind of lean Chet over Gobert, but Gobert is having another incredible year. And I know you're going to cite Gobert's on-off stats and all that stuff, but Gobert does not have a backup center. So listen, I just want to remind you of that.
I had until apparently, even on my unofficial ballot, I had Gobert over Chet until I actually sent it into you, because just watching them again, like, I think Gobert obviously is still an incredible rim protector, right? He's past his peak. I think he was better, like probably around 21, 22 might have been his, maybe even earlier than that. But I remember 21 and 22 is a tremendous, just all-time type of rim protector. But it feels like the activity is a little bit lower. It feels like he's a lot less willing to step out of the paint, and he's not quite as mobile as he once was. And I think Chet really clears in there. And then people might be like, "Oh, Cody, that doesn't count. This is rim protection. This is paint protection. You just want the guy to stand in the paint." No. Because if you can shut down more of the paint, if you can step out as a big man and still get back to the paint, you're actually protecting more than just around the actual basket. And even around the basket, I think statistically Chet looks better. I don't necessarily know if I put it under the microscope if he's literally protecting the rim better than Gobert, but it is a wider radius to me that Chet is protecting that makes him more of a dangerous rim protector at the moment.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would also add that this is not best rim protector. It is best paint protector, right? So short mid-range, we've talked about this with Wembanyama. To your point, the short mid-range and stopping those areas of the court, stopping stuff before it gets all the way to the final 5 feet is a big deal. It's really relevant when you can rotate and take away those passes or deter people from shooting in that area. It's not just about drop coverage, funneling floaters to 12 feet. It's all the other stuff. And again, I think Chet is a little more versatile there. So Gobert's having a great year. I think at this point in his career, he gets underrated and under-discussed. But and he finished second here. So the rest of the voters disagree with us, Cody.
Who's number 4? I'm interested to know if it was Evan Mobley.
Number 4 was Evan Mobley.
It was, okay.
Yes.
It feels like to me
Sarr.
Alex
Sarr with a shout out here, by the way.
Listen.
Oh gosh.
Listen.
Yeah. You can't even give the people of Washington with what they have to go through. Yeah.
You know what? They've gone through enough pain. I'm not going to finish that sentence.
Thank you.
Let's just keep going.
Oh, no, you were going to make another point. You were going to make a totally separate point. Was it about Mobley?
I was going to say, this is the only category. I think I only sent those 4 names. Like, to me, everyone else was a good chunk below where I'm like, I'm not going to include anyone else on my ballot here. And I think there's some interesting names out there. I think like the Donovan Klingons of the world and Alex Sarr, and there are some good, interesting guys, but I thought that these 4 to me are just like the cream of the crop in terms of paint protection.
Yeah. I mean, Alex Sarr is good. I think it's possible we're talking about him on this show in the future. Right. But these top 3 and even what to do after that, I wasn't sure if you said keep going. Is it Evan Mobley? Where does someone like Jared Allen fit in? What do you do with like a Luke Cornett? What do you do with a guy like that who's just maybe not on the same level or not as skilled as these other players? Donovan Klingon is another guy who, yeah, go ahead.
I don't know, Ben. Luke Cornett's on-off defensive numbers just don't seem to pop compared to some of these other guys. I don't know why. There can't be any context to that. He's just not popping like someone like Rudy Gobert.
Do you think there could be a reason why Luke Cornett, when he goes off the court,
numbers are numbers? There's no context to anything. You can't pair observations with any of those spreadsheets.
Do you think Rob Williams will ever make a comeback here?
Man, he was so important to that 22 Celtics turnaround.
Yeah,
just so important to it that I don't know. I think he's one of these health guys too, but he comes in for the Blazers, and of course he's coming off the bench for another great rim protector, right? Like Klingon himself is a tremendous rim protector. So there's some interesting dynamic stuff going on. I don't know. I'm not a huge believer that there's going to be like a huge health turnaround to make me think he'll be in the top of this voting again.
Do you think Ivica Zubac with the Pacers, a full year of health and the full scheme there, do you think we'll be talking about him next year?
Yeah, I think he was on my ballot last year. I think he could have been like one of my bottom spots there. But I'm a big Zubac fan, but I just haven't seen enough of it from him this year.
Yep, sounds good. Okay, shall we do best perimeter helper?
Yes,
this was the category that I personally was most interested in seeing the results. And I don't know who won, and I need to press this button right now live, and you will all see my reaction.
I know who you want to win, though.
You know who I want to win.
I know who you feel very strongly should win.
I feel very strongly. I do feel very strongly about this. I feel extremely strongly about this. Okay, here we go. Best perimeter helper 2026 I'm going to do fourth place. In fourth place, there's a chunk of players competing for first place here. Okay. 40% vote share up to actually, sorry, I should recalibrate. We'll have to do a recap at the end. I have a button that's off here. 34% vote share up to 50% vote share. So we're talking about a tight bracket here. In fourth place, Amen Thompson.
Okay.
In third place, from the Detroit Pistons, Asar Thompson. Now, I think we've done a pretty good job in this show of mentioning other names that need to be mentioned. And I'm realizing as we get here, this is our last opportunity to do this. He's picked up some trace votes here and there. And I thought about him here and there. But from the Detroit Pistons, Javonte Green should just get a little bit of love, Cody. I just want to throw that your way right now before we finish the show.
Dude, I love him. He didn't make like the top of my motor ballot, but every time I log into the Pistons, he's just all over the place, right?
But he's also very good. He is
very good
as a perimeter defender. He's also very, very good. When you talk about, hey, I want to line up defenses and I want guys out there on the court. If I was just doing an all defensive team, I'm not going to get to too many players before I'm like, hey, is Javonte Green available to go out and play defense for me? Because he's quite good.
There are a collection of guys that I just had a category that's like defensive players that just aren't going to get like shot. Like Derrick Jones Jr. I didn't put him on any categories, but like that's just a good defensive player. Like I'd be okay with him being out there if I was trying to shut down a team.
Cody, I'm realizing right now the AI summary is going to have a field day with this one. We forgot to announce the 2026 paint protector. Yeah. We did not. The 2026 Thinky for best paint protector unanimously with 100% of the vote share goes to Victor Wembanyama of the San Antonio Spurs.
I think that speaks to it where we actually spend all the time talking about 2 through 4. And we just knew who number 1 was. Like that just speaks to the complete and utter dominance that this guy steps into it. So I think that's a little notch in his belt going forward.
I also have a very important correction to make. I just referred to it as the AI summary. That is marketing gobbledygook. It is an LLM summary of our text message recording that will translate on this show. It's an LLM summary. Where was I?
I hope there's an outline that's called LLM summary versus AI summary. Please, Spotify, come through.
That'd be amazing. Where was I? Amen Thompson in fourth place.
I think you said Asar in third.
Just ahead of him is Asar Thompson with 36% of the vote share. In second place, just ahead of them with 41% of the vote share from the Oklahoma City Thunder is Alex Caruso. And Cody, the 2026 Thinky for best perimeter helper in the NBA. The crowd got it correct. The voters got it correct. I'm so excited I can't put a sentence together. It is from the Boston Celtics, the great Derek White.
This is such a, you know what? You cook. You go for this. This is a special moment for you right now.
He's unbelievable. He's absolutely unbelievable. He is, when I read the definition of this, helping and recovering, getting in from the nail, rotating into the paint, weak side zones, closeouts, and all the, oh my God, he's unbelievable. And he does a couple things that give him a superpower in this area that I don't think this sort of average basketball fan, what am I talking about? The average basketball fan doesn't even know who Derek White is. He should be an all-star, and here's why. part 61. When other players pass the ball in the NBA, defenses react to that pass. Derek White, when he's in that situation, he anticipates that pass, right? Button Man in the audience has got it down pat. He is a guard version of Draymond Green. The things we used to talk about for Draymond, this is Derek White. This is what he's doing. So we're going to skip the ball to the weak side. We saw it in his video that we did for our subscribers. He's going to leave on that pass before the pass is even thrown because he's anticipating it. And then the way he moves his feet and the kind of dancing routes that he's so light, so he can hit the closeout and then turn around and recover and be somewhere else. Beelining all over the court. He's just incredible. And that doesn't even get into the, rear view blocks and things like that. The amount of plays, Caruso was second here. I realized for Caruso, he has a lot of plays in more dynamic broken situations like semi-transition or transition or in the backcourt where he's coming back. There's a live ball that comes off the rim. We're coming back in transition. The offense is bringing it up. And Caruso's like reading. He's like, oh, you want to move it to this side of the court, hides behind a big man, just materializes and steals the pass. That is part of the possession. That's the beginning of the possession. So those two guys just absolutely incredible to me.
This might seem like cheating, but I think something that Derek White does too, and we've talked about this before, but he's one of the great shot blocking guards ever, like in NBA history, and the ability for him to be out on the perimeter, anticipating these passes, getting to the passing plays, getting through screens and things like that, while also being able to duck down and block someone at the rim or contest, or also jump down there and then get back to the perimeter. All of that together. And I know that wraps in some of the rim protection or paint protection that we're talking about, but it is part and parcel of his ability to defend all of this kind of space. And the way that I thought about it is like, how are you helping from the perimeter and how are you helping in all of this space? So you add that in there, and it just gives even more juice to Derek White's candidacy.
Well, somebody actually gave him a vote for paint protector. So Derek White is the only player in the 2026 Thinkies to appear in all 6 categories.
No way.
Yes. And now fittingly right on cue, Cody, for the first time, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this. We'll try to do our best to describe it. We have our nominees for the Hustle Play of the Year, the 2026 Hustle Play of the Year. Our first nominee is OG Anunoby. Offensive rebound, stealing the ball, coming out of nowhere. Knicks get the ball. Brunson takes the 3. OG flies across the court and gets another offensive rebound. Did you see that? That was ridiculous.
Wow. The deflection crashes in for the offensive rebound.
Goes through 6 people to get the offensive rebound in the opposite corner.
He goes through Josh Hart. He physically moves Josh Hart out of the way with his shoulders.
Knicks get a bucket on the second offensive rebound from OG Anunoby. Our second nominee for the Hustle Play of the Year is Victor Wembanyama. What is this? Blocking, getting back and blocking the shot, going down court behind the back pass, jumping lob, reverse layup. That's pretty good. Do you want to see that one again? That was
I do.
good.
Yeah. Go back to that.
That was pretty good. Oh my goodness. Victor Wembanyama. So he's playing defense on the perimeter, comes back into the paint after switching, blocks the shot, sprints down court, catches the pass in the air, throws it behind the back pass to Devin Vassell and gets it back for a lob. It's pretty good.
Unreal stuff. Getting back. So for people that like don't play a lot of basketball, like to get the energy to go from the elbow to block it at the rim, like you get vertical there, and then to sprint the full court to finish that kind of play, and you're 7'4", unbelievable stuff. So yeah, I'm skewing a little bit for the size here. This is really exciting. This is breaking ground right now, Ben. I haven't seen these plays, and we haven't used this technology. This is amazing.
We haven't used video technology before.
Not like this.
All right, this is our next play, and I'm trying to remember. Casey Wallace flying down the court. Oh, this is a Chet Holmgren. Let's watch Chet Holmgren here. The Thunder are playing defense against the Cavs. Lou Dort with a steal. Chet Holmgren comes from under the basket, sprints all the way down the court, catches it in the paint, reverse layup. He's under the basket, sprints all the way down the other end. Evan Mobley's wide open. Chet Holmgren breaks up the lob, falls out of bounds, and saves the ball. Oh my goodness!
Not only he doesn't jump up and disrupt the pass by like tapping it away. He catches it and then saves it from falling out of bounds. So he basically does two full court sprints
back to back.
That ends up with the layup and the save. That's unbelievable stuff. I love these big men sprinting like that. That's incredible.
All right, our next candidate is Derek White. Derek White in the corner against the Orlando Magic. Let's see. Let's see what happens here. He's going for a rebound, tips it a couple times. The Magic come away with it. Anthony Black has it, and he tips it. He actually tips it and steals it from Anthony Black. Jaylen Brown gets it back. Anthony Black steals it from Jaylen Brown. Derek White coming out of nowhere like the Flash. Cody, describe what just happened?
So first of all, the play starts with him doing his best Dennis Rodman impression, right? There's like the famous Rodman trying to rebound over Barkley and he's tipping it. There's 1, 2, he either has 2 or 3 jumps to do it. And then when he comes back, there's the famous Allen Iverson play where Iverson, I don't know if it's Mark Jackson, that he's just hounding across the entire court. Derek White does this full sprints down. That's Banchero that he gets.
Anthony Black.
Or as Anthony Black.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Chase down steal, full length of the court, chase down steal, saves it going out of bounds, throws it back into Luka Garza, who hits ahead for an Ant Simons 3. I think our next candidate for this is also a Derek White play, Cody. This is against the Miami Heat, going for a full court chase down, doesn't get it, peels into the corner, challenges his first shot, gets the ball, Heat get the offensive rebound. White immediately closes out to the perimeter, runs into the lane, challenges a second shot, challenges a third shot, and picks up an offensive foul. We had this one in his member video. And we have one more candidate here. This is also a Derek White play. This one might be my favorite. Let's see. It's against the Washington Wizards. White is in the corner. Brown shoots a 3. White crashes the glass, tips and steals the rebound. Celtics get it back. Tatum shoots a 3. White crashes the glass, tracks down the rebound in the corner, throws it off of Bilal Coulibaly out of bounds. Those are our candidates for hustle play of the year. Cody, what's it going to be? Where's your vote?
My personal favorite is actually the penultimate one that you showed, where White tries to get the rear view steal. He comes down, he peels off, he contests the shot, he goes into the paint, and then he goes back out to contest again, chase him off a spot, force the dribble to the right, step back, and then draws the offensive foul. That's, to me, that was the most impressive of the plays that you just showed me. That just kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, I think that might be the one.
So yeah. Derek White is also the winner of the hustle play of the year. The play I was thinking of, there's actually, I got to pulled up my notes right now because I know exactly where it was. It was a Timberwolves Suns game from November 21st. And Colin Gillespie, it was actually a couple of plays in a row.
Oh, yes. I took that out of the package.
Okay.
That was the first play in the package. And in fact, I may have it here. Cody, look at this.
Oh my God, do you have it?
Look at this. Colin Gillespie diving, saving the ball, and tapping it to Jordan Goodwin. This is a good one. So basically, Dylan Brooks has a 3 at the top of the key. Gillespie is on the far wing. Gillespie crashes, but the Hawks look like they have it in the corner. He just steals it from Dyson Daniels, and then the full Dennis Rodman, full extension, taps the ball under his own hoop to Jordan Goodwin for the 3-point play. That was a good one.
So I see now, after watching all the plays that you put, like that is a really impressive single, 20-foot, 30-foot sprint or something like that. That was an awesome play. But the other ones where you combine the amount of running and recovery that comes in, I see why that didn't make the final cut. I can see that. Yeah.
So I think fittingly, the winner of the 2026 Thinky for Best Motor, Derek White, also wins the Hustle Play of the Year. Our live audience had their input registered and clocked, and it is Derek White. against the Miami Heat with the 5 contests, the one we had from the video, drawing the offensive foul at the end of the play after the full court sprint. Yeah. We did it, man. We made it all the way through. Is there anything else we need to do? Have we checked all the boxes here?
Can we use this as a time to bring up players that didn't quite make any conversations for some reason, but probably could have?
Let me first say some players that got some trace votes that we didn't get. For perimeter helper, Herb Jones was actually right behind OG Anunoby and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I needed to round that out. And then some trace votes that we haven't mentioned. Marcus Smart shows up somewhere. Tumani Kamara shows up somewhere. Donovan Clingan shows up somewhere. I can't remember if we've talked about Jaden McDaniels yet in this show. And I think we have we did our Jordan Goodwin love. Did we talk about Davion Mitchell? Did we give him some love?
He appeared in your conversation about point of attack.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't sure what to do with him. Motor's pretty close. He's got pretty good hands. He's a pretty good point of attack defender. So yeah, that was
the one guy. Let's see if I'm looking at my ballot right now. He got one, like a back end vote from me for perimeter helper, but Tumani Kamara is still just like a wrecking crew out there. And there's a lot that this guy can do.
I don't want to be too critical of Tumani because of how much I love him and the Blazers, but I think the focus and emphasis on more offense this year, along with just some age and wear and tear, has chipped away a little bit at what he was able to do last year defensively. And sometimes guys just get bigger and they add weight and things like that. And you're not quite at the exact same level you used to be at.
I would be interested to see, because they'll probably be in a play-in game, if I'm not mistaken. But I want to see him get unleashed, because there were plays. Like I said, there's a reason he didn't make a top-end ballot. But I thought he's good enough that I wanted to shout him out as being like, this is still a very good defender in the NBA.
They will 100% be in a play-in game. The play-in games are actually locked. So the who plays where is still up for some debate. But the play-in teams are locked. The in the West, the Warriors, Blazers, Clippers, and Suns, barring some crazy thing with Minnesota and Phoenix at the end of the year, will be the play-in teams in the West. So,
looking at my ballot right now for anyone else, the one guy, he didn't come up at all, no trace votes, and I think it's because his team is not good. But I also, checking in, he didn't seem to have like the complete dominance I remember. But Herb Jones.
I mentioned Herb a second ago.
Oh, yeah. Did you? I missed you saying.
Yeah, okay. That's okay.
He's still a good defensive player, but he's not exactly what I remember from a couple years ago.
Dylan Brooks. Someone gave VJ Edgecombe some motor love. Yeah, it's always fun seeing the diversity of votes and all the different players that get acknowledged. So, quick recap, which I've forgotten to do in the past. Quick recap: the winner of Best Motor was Derek White. I said everybody had a majority share, but I actually had the calculator slightly miscalibrated. Derek White got 49% of the votes for Motor. Okay, 49%. So he did not quite get the majority share. The winner for Best Hands in a Runaway was Cason Wallace. The winner for Best Point of Attack Defender was Asar Thompson. The winner for Most Versatile Defender, also just under 50%, so technically not a majority, was Scotty Barnes. Unanimously, the Best Paint Protector went to Victor Wembanyama, and the Best Help Defender, correctly, went to Derek White from the Boston Celtics. I think before we go, now that we've heard the recaps, any sort of big winners, takeaways, guys that, I mean, we mentioned White. I think he was an enormous winner. It'll be interesting to see if he makes first team all defense. I think it's probably right there. And yeah, go ahead.
Well, okay. I have a big question that I actually want to end on. I think it can be a fun little exercise that we end with. I don't think I prepped you with this at all, so we'll see how that goes. But to your point, to your question, Derek White's obviously a huge winner. Asar Thompson came up a lot, very high in a lot of ballots. A very flexible type of defender. And like Amen Thompson also appeared, but correctly, Ben, it seems like the voters have identified that Asar Thompson is the superior defender. Even though Amen's great, Asar is definitely the better one. Alex Caruso continues.
Okay, on the Thompson twins point, yeah, I had this thought as well. And right before we recorded, I checked their defensive EPM, And Asar's defensive EPM has gone up this year, and a men's defensive EPM has gone down this year.
Huh.
And I thought that was interesting. It's a singular data point. It's a little noisy, but just sort of a confirmation thing where last year, if you remember, the Thompson twins were so close, and we talked about maybe having a slight preference for one or the other. I think Asar a touch, but this year it felt cleaner to me in that in more areas, I think Asar is stronger defensively than Amen is at this point.
Yep. I completely agree with that. Alex Caruso won out and it was at least mentioned in quite a few categories. And of course, Victor Wembanyama, who came up not just in paint protector, which is actually pretty rare for paint protector winners year in and year out here.
Alex Caruso was 4th in motor. He was 4th in hands. He was 3rd in point of attack. He did not get votes in versatile. No, sorry. He was 4th in versatile. What am I thinking? He did not get votes in paint protector, and he was 2nd in perimeter helper. Incredible performance. Oh, a Derek White level performance from Alex Caruso.
Where did Asar end up in the various categories?
Oh boy. Asar in motor was 3rd, in hands was 2nd, in point of attack was 1st, in versatile was 8th, did not show up in paint protector, and in perimeter helper was 3rd. So yeah. And once again, I'm forced to reflect on the reality that while the Celtics may have like 4 or 5 legitimate motor candidates, right? Because we talked about Derek White winning and Hugo Gonzalez coming in 2nd. And I mean, how many, like, they're big men? Luka Garza has a crazy high motor for a big man. Nemish Keita has a high motor for a big man. Jordan Walsh, I think you shouted out Jordan Walsh yourself. Like, I don't know what Missoula's got them doing, but it was incredible to me to look at that and say, my goodness, you could literally pick all of these Celtics and make cases for them in their own ways. And that's just the motor category. And then Oklahoma City Thunder, when you zoom out in all the categories, you're like, okay, this isn't fair. We had Jalen J-Dub Williams didn't even play this year. He would have been in half of these categories, if not 5 or 6 of them. Chet Holmgren is battling for literally the non-alien Victor Wembanyama best paint protector in the world. And then, oh, by the way, it's just like, pick your freak. Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, Kasem Wallace wins best hands. So those were probably my biggest takeaways. Just incredible team level stuff from those teams.
Here's the question, the big question that I want to try and work through with you.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to build right now the best defensive lineup in the NBA of these guys, the best functional lineup that you want to put out there and be like, you need to stop whatever's going to come at you, who's making your 5-man defensive lineup?
By the way, I'm going to stall on that. One more straggler vote name. I forget the category, but Ron Holland. Somebody got a Ron Holland vote in there. And the team thing made me think of that because you have Asar, but you also have Javonte Green, but you also have Ron Holland. And then Cade Cunningham, honestly, was someone who just wasn't quite good enough in any category, but I think very highly of Cade Cunningham as a defender. So, and then of course, Isaiah Stewart, someone gave Isaiah Stewart a little love in paint protector. And, Paul Reed's fun. So
Andrew Nembhard, I think, was part of the conversation last year, the pickup stuff, but that feels like maybe when they're better, we're going to see a bit more full.
That's what I think. He's great, and next year if we can get some Tyrese Halliburton, Ivica Zubac, Cam Boozer, Andrew Nembhard starting lineup with Pascal Siakam, we see the Pacers cook. That'll be exciting. I think Victor Wembanyama has to be on that team. I think Derek White probably has to be on that team. I think you probably need one of those Oklahoma City Thunder guys. That's 3, right?
Yep.
Boy, would you take Asar Thompson as well?
I think so.
And then you need a bigger body. Would OG be the last big body? I mean, this is where my whole thing with the versatility and having, someone like Jason Tatum or Barnes, I think peak Tatum would be a nice slot in there, but I don't think we're seeing peak Tatum right now. Do you have other players that you would think of?
You're right about the OKC guy. My lineup, I was thinking Wemby.
Wait,
White.
You wrote this down? You prepared for this?
Oh my goodness, this is all I think about. Yeah, I'm just coming up with hypothetical teams. This is how I get people count sheep and things like that. I just ask myself a hypothetical team building question. And then I fall asleep in the middle of thinking about it.
That's what I do too.
So Wemby, White, Asar. For the OKC guy, I leaned Caruso on this.
Yes.
And then I do think that fifth spot is philosophically really interesting as to what you want to do. I ultimately leaned Scotty Barnes.
Okay.
But
you could, yes.
That one I could go in a bunch of different directions.
Yes, you could talk me into Draymond on that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think I want a really good communicator. I think you need another big body. You want some versatility. You could really talk me into Draymond. Last year it would just be a no-brainer. But this year you could still even talk me into like the Draymond Wemby backline battery and just what would happen there. Yeah.
That would be unbelievable. Now that you say that, like Barnes is great and flies around and stuff, but there's something about having like the brains of the operation. I know you brought up the play where Barnes is calling out and playing a chess match with Missoula, but like we're talking about Draymond Green here.
Yeah.
Like that man's mind for defense and offense, honestly, for that matter, is just off the charts. Just like outlier type of stuff that we've basically never seen.
Were you able, it was a long time ago, it was over an hour ago, were you able to give Moussa Diabate, you were able to give Moussa Diabate some love?
He's my number one in motor. Yeah.
Yes, when we talked about the French. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. All right. I think that's it. I think we did it. Thanks as always for listening all the way through. Hope you enjoyed it. It's one of our favorite episodes of the year to do. Next week, we'll be back in playoff mode with our playoff preview. But otherwise, that is it for this one. As always, wherever you are listening from, we hope you are having a great day.